Hello, Dankey Kang gang. I had typed this little ditty out before my old channel received its second strike. So it's talking about what is fascism. Now, I'll probably have to title this video something different, like what is ultranationalism or something to that effect. The title is going to have to be censored, but hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know what fascism is, you'll have a good understanding, and so you'll know what it is and what it is not, because I am seeing too many people saying that Antifa is the real pho, and that's fucking stupid. So, hopefully, if I do a good job by the end of this video, you will see. But first of all, let me just say, I'm not a fascist. I hate fascism. Fascism sucks. Alright? So YouTube, if you see this, please, God, do not flag this video for hate speech. Because it's literally the opposite of that. Alright, so without further ado, this is what fascism is. Alright, the first tenet is ultranationalism. The needs of the nation come above the needs of everybody else. So this is just sort of like the general idea. You live for the state, not the other way around. Our nation is destined to conquer our inferior neighbors. These three sorts of elements are sort of present in all types of fascist movements. And when I say the needs of the nation, the national identity is something that is intrinsic to fascism as well. We'll get into that a bit more, but just know that fascism relies on the building of a common national identity, and that identity becomes the state becomes the manifestation of that identity, and as we'll get in more and more to fascist thoughts on like degeneracy and racial theory, we'll see why this ultra-nationalistic tendency is particularly harmful. But fascism's also anti-democratic. This is the second principle, because democracy allows liberal degeneracy, and we're going to talk a little bit more about degeneracy in a bit. But from a fascist viewpoint, liberal democracies let in all kinds of things, cultural behaviors that lead to an erosion of moral values and a decline in the potency of the race. Once again, these aren't my views. These are the views that fascists hold. I'm just trying to explain it to people. It says democracy allows their influence. And by the three parentheses, this is something that white supremacists use on the internet to denote someone belonging to the Jewish community. I'm using this as a stand-in for any sort of targeted other group. Whether it's Jews, whether it's communists, whether it's Jewish communists, just anything like that. Fascists usually center around an identifiable minority enemy that they can target. So, of course, democracy allows their influence because it allows non-whites to potentially run for government, win positions of power, elected office, that kind of thing. And so because of that, they say democracy makes us their puppet. They meaning, the Jews. And so they essentially see this influence of the targeted other group in their society sort of infiltrating through the democratic system. And then they say democracy allows communism to take root. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit more about anti-communism and fascism, why the two are pretty much as polar opposite as you can get. But now we'll talk a little bit more into the economic side of fascism, and this is where things get weird. Because fascists have largely and rightly so been criticized as being opportunists. They don't have like a set standard on economy or economic policies. There is a general trend of a protectionist form of state capitalism, but when I say state capitalism, it's not a complete control of the economy by the state. Uh, it's rather mixed with privately run corporations, but like I said, the economy is very protectionistic. There are heavy regulations, heavy standards in place to ensure that uh, the profits made under the capitalist system stay within the its respective country. So, and the reason why is because fascists believe that global capitalism is run by them. So, if they run the global capitalist system, uh, but they are also behind the communist movement, as we'll see fascists believe, then the only response is to still be capitalist, but to reject this sort of global capitalist system by being protectionistic. So, capitalism good, but they bad. Um, and I mean, protectionistic basically says, all right, global economy be damned. The needs of our country come first. And so, if our neighbor has resources that our country needs, well, then that gives us the justification to invade them. If they won't allow us to sell our goods and products, then we will invade them. So, I mean, it's a gateway to imperialism. Fascism is a gateway to imperialism. I can't see a fascist government coming into power and staying peaceful and not killing anybody and not doing any kind of invasions. And so the fourth sort of principle of fascism is anti-egalitarianism. They hate the concept of equality. They don't think that people are equal. They think that some people are better than others, and this is sort of the crux of their ideology. We'll get into that on the next point, but they think women belong in the kitchen. They are essentially designed to be breeders for the white race, and that's the primary role that women should have in society. They shouldn't have jobs, they shouldn't be liberated and free. They are essentially slaves to men. And once again, I have to keep saying this. This is not my beliefs. This is what fascists believe. I detest this stuff. They also don't think that homosexuality is a good thing. They think it leads to degeneration, uh, loss of propagation for the white race, and so because all of this stuff is tied in to the concept of degeneracy and degeneration theory, it's all eugenic. And of course, we know the eugenic movement really started in the United States. We employed eugenics and served as sort of the legal basis by which the Nazis used their racial identification system. Very, very disgusting. But yeah, very eugenic. And eugenics is anti-egalitarian because it basically says some people don't deserve to live, don't deserve to reproduce, because they are inferior. Uh, who are they to say? Once again. Uh, so this leads us to the fifth sort of principle of fascism: race conflict and degeneration theory. So the crux of all of this, the crux of fascism in general, is the notion that some races are better than others. It all comes down to skin color, ladies and gentlemen. That's what these fascist chuds want you to think. That the color of your skin makes you better, makes you smarter, makes your country destined to rule the world. Uh, so they believe that mixing races weakens those races, especially mixing with weaker races. And usually the theory goes is that they, usually the Jews, want us to mix to weaken us. This is part of the whole anti-Semitism plot, the Protocols and Elders of Zion. It was an old book published, I want to say in the late or mid 1800s, and it was essentially a anti-Jewish conspiracy theory that the Jews are conspiring to weaken the white race by allowing foreigners in to interbreed with us. It's basically white genocide, the whole white genocide myth laid out, which is why I say fascists believe that liberalism and their influence lead to white genocide. So like I said in my past video, the whole concept of white genocide is laughable and stupid. Slow demographic changes over time does not a genocide make. And these goobers base their entire worldview around that alarmist reactionary notion. That is why I say that fascism is fundamentally a reactionary ideology. And so the sixth sort of principle is palingenesis, or the concept of a national rebirth. Usually it goes like this. There's an aggrievement that has been inflicted by a targeted group, an example, the Jews. And then the appeal to a past golden age. One of the examples, contemporary, is Make America Great Again, implying that America was at one point great and has since declined. There's also the concept of we must cleanse our society of degenerates, those who would bring our nation down, or those who would hold our nation back or our race back. So to a fascist, the race and the nation are one and the same. A nation of mixed races is one that is weak and doomed to fall to their influence. Pretty stupid, but I don't think it's true at all. But the last sort of unifying principle of fascism is they are all anti-communist as shit. Communism is, of course, a Jewish plot for world domination, somehow, even though the Jews also control the global banks, according to fascists. Communism encourages degeneracy, I guess, because religion is the opiate of the masses, and traditional moral values are based on the patriarchal, capitalist, religious mindset. And so we're all just gonna have gay butt orgies, and smoke a ton of PCP, and just live in communal housings. And so, and then in general, they just have this sort of type reaction whenever they see communism. It's usually, ooh, you want everything for free, or just really stupid chud comments like that. So that's why I put communism sort of all those typical chud anti-communist bullshit, quote unquote arguments that they use, can all fall under that category. So with all that said, that's what fascism is. Thank you for watching. YouTube, please don't delete this video. I'm trying to educate folks. I'm not a fascist. I hate fascists. I'm an anti-fascist. So, yeah, listen to reason. Don't censor me, dude.